Good morning, everyone. It's Saturday, which means it's time for yet another Salty Saturday morning. I am your host, Mr. Kadish. Get it right. And joining me today is my fantastic panel of nerds, starting with the OG Salty Nerd himself, Alex from the Salty Nerd. How you doing, buddy?
Hello, everybody. Happy Saturday. I'm actually awake this time around, so this should be fun. Although I don't give a crap about any of these topics.
Well, neither did Dutch Butters, so you're pretty much aligned with everything that he did when he was on the show. So thank you.
It was meant to be.
Here. Yes. And the man who's taking a break from his busy cereal eating on stream schedule.
I
Tom
just finished.
Yes, I know you did. Yeah. Welcome, Tom. How you doing today?
I'm here. What more do you want from me?
And you got that baby face, the freshly shaved baby.
Well,
face.
I still got a little on there. I just trimmed it up, you know.
I gotta keep it tight for the ladies, right?
That's right. If any ever show up.
Speaking of showing up, Odin is here on time. How you doing, Odin? Thank you for being here today.
I'm doing great. Always happy to be here and ready to talk about some of these topics.
Well, what's funny is that you usually come on after Brian has already been on for a while, but Brian is late. He's running late today. He's got a video that's rendering, so he has to wait for that to finish before he can hop on the live stream. I guess it's a bandwidth issue. But you know who doesn't have a bandwidth issue is coming to us directly from across the pond. From the UK itself is our special guest today, the one and only Reaper. How you doing, Reaper?
I'm okay, yeah. I think he's lying to you about bandwidth.
Yeah,
I mean,
probably, yeah.
I am proof that there's no bandwidth issue.
Indeed, and he's only in Orange County. You're all the way in the UK.
All
right, guys. So real quick, we got a new leaderboard that we're going to be sharing with you guys. This is the beginning of 2025, so we always reset our leaderboards for our community. And Scotty Dub came in last week with the $200 super chat, so he is now officially our top super chatter and our top contributor of the year thus far. I also want to give a big shout out to our top gifters, Jillian H., Major Chai Chai, and Eric Winberg. In fact, we've already got Major Chai Chai showing up, dropping the 5 Salty Nerd podcast memberships. Thank you so much, Major Chai Chai. Always appreciate it. And you have your well-earned position on the leaderboard. So appreciate you. Guys, our goal for today is 15 new members as declared by Dutch Butters before he left for his extended vacation. So we're already 5 into that, thanks to Major Chai Chai. So we just need 10 more to hit that goal. So hopefully you guys can help us out. Don't forget to clip and comment and also give us a thumbs up. Helps us in the algorithm. So if you guys want to do that, it also gets featured on our main Salty Nerd podcast channel if you guys clip this stuff. And just, you know, if Brian ever shows up, he's going to be doing his show right after ours at 12:30 Pacific, 3:30 Eastern. It's called The Brain Show. It's where him and his brother Shane try to get their channel completely demonetized and canceled by talking about politics. So there's all that good stuff. And
The Brain Show.
The Brain Show, BRANE. It's Brian and Shane. Brain.
Well, it's not intelligence. They spelled it wrong.
It's not. They're not smart, so that they just combine their names together. It's like
that's the joke.
Yeah, that's the joke.
Beat them. That's my advice.
Yeah. Speaking of jokes, we got Mexican Iron Man for $10. I'm back in 2025 to retain my title for the 3rd year. Good news, I am on the way to California to perform needed rescue operations to check in on the ladies displaced from the LA strip clubs. That's Mexican Iron Man for you. He's a true giver. Like he is a true person who cares about other people, including us. So thank you, Mexican Iron Man, for that $10 donation. Just need to get a little bit more consistent on there to get you up on the leaderboards, but that shouldn't be a problem for you. And also Jillian H., formerly Jillian N., the queen of gifted subs, has come on and dropped another 5 Salty Nerd podcast memberships, bringing us our total up to 10 already right off the bat. Thank you so much, Jillian. I appreciate you. So we only got 5 more to go to hit our goals, guys. 5 more to go. And his ears must have been burning because Brian is back on the show. How you doing, Brian?
Yeah, sorry, guys. I'm in the middle of a render, so it took me a second to load.
Yeah, Reaper was calling you out about the Brain Show, man. He said you guys didn't sound all that intelligent because you misspelled brain.
No, I did that on purpose. Oh, you guys know that. You're messing
Well,
with
that's
me.
what everyone says.
Yeah,
Well, I failed on purpose.
Yeah, it's a mixture of both our names. Okay, Brane.
At first, I thought you just misspelled Brian.
I'm gonna be real with you. When I was in second grade, I was taught to spell my name Brain and not Brian for like a year and a half.
What?
Finally, my dad paid attention to me, saw that on my paper, and got really pissed because it was a private school. Took me out of private school, put me in a public school. Said, I'm not paying money for them to teach you how to spell your name wrong. That's not working for me.
Well, you know what is working for us are new members. So we got Juliet, who just became a YouTube member. Thank you, Juliet. Good to see you. And Mexican Iron Man, not to be outdone, drops another $5 super chat. I was at the shooting range last week in Florida. So here is a makeup chat for last week. So this is 2 weeks in a row then. Thank you so much, Mexican Iron Man. And can't wait for you to also open up your new bunker for when the apocalypse comes. We'll be able to find you there, streaming specifically as the end of the world happens. So nice to know that at least one Mexican will survive the apocalypse. Gotta love them. Gotta love them. Speaking of love, guys, you guys ready to start the show?
Always.
No.
Heck yeah.
Let's do this.
You know that Warner Brothers is planning a new Goonies and Gremlins film.
Oh.
Yay.
Well,
You do realize that this news comes out like every 5 months, right?
I
For the
do,
last 35 years.
I do, but
I'm not even joking.
there's a few more things that I want to kind of tack on to the discussion of this that I thought were kind of interesting. But basically, these are not reboots. These are actually sequels to the movies we all know and love. So the Goonies would be like the kids in the Goonies are all grown up and they have their own kids who are going on an adventure and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then the Gremlins would be a sequel to, I guess, Gremlins 2. But the interesting thing here is that there's this Deadline article that kind of like spilled the beans about these two projects being in development. But it's actually a very interesting article, and you guys can check it out because it's linked in the description if you want to do your own homework. But this article really kind of goes in depth into how Warner Brothers is kind of revamping their strategy for 2025 in terms of like what projects they're developing and what they're releasing. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that they pissed off a lot of like big name creators and actors and stuff like that in the COVID era by doing direct to streaming releases. So like stuff that was supposed to come out in theaters, they basically put it out on streaming and screwed a bunch of people over for their back ends and stuff like that.
And whose fault was that?
It was, I forget the name of the
Killar.
Thank you, Tom. So like, you know, that was kind of like his decision, and he was kind of gearing up HBO Max to be a big competitor with Netflix, and but didn't quite work out like he had planned. But what's interesting about this article is like they're talking about how Hollywood, or I should say Warner Brothers, is trying to get back to their creator-centric approach, because before COVID, Warner's was really known to be like a studio that developed relationships with directors and actors to a certain extent, and basically like worked with them to create passion projects, or at least projects that they were passionate about. They had Christopher Nolan in their stable, Clint Eastwood, and a bunch of other stuff. And then COVID kind of like ruined that. Now that David Zaslav has come in and they've got like new people at the top of their development slate, they're going back to that kind of like mentality of trying to basically partner with like auteurs and like people like James Gunn and Paul Thomas Anderson and stuff like that to develop, Ryan Coogler, to develop films that the filmmakers are passionate about, but are also commercial enough for Warner Brothers to push out. And it was actually a very interesting article, just kind of talking about, you know, this shift in strategy going back to kind of like what used to work for them, and some of the movies that they have kind of like piled up for their slate. But the big thing is that the guys who kind of developed Barbie for them, one of which was like their big like marketing guru, his name was Goldstein, I think. He basically got fired. Like he got kicked from the studio, and now he's a free agent. And everyone's like, why would you dump your quarterback, you know, like your big time quarterback before going into a game? Yeah, so I wanted to start with you, Alex. What do you think of a Goonies sequel? Would you be down for that if they're adults now instead of kids?
No, that's gonna be terrible.
It's gonna be awesome.
It's gonna be awful. Now we get
Mispronounced awesome.
I mean, besides Josh Brolin, and maybe Sean Austin's a national treasure, but his comments as of the last couple of years have been questionable at best. But yeah, no, it's probably going to be terrible. It might be nostalgic for those of you who love the Goonies, but I despise that movie and I think it's terrible, so I'm not going to watch it.
You're terrible.
I have absolutely no desire to watch a bunch of washed up middle-aged actors come back.
Dare you, sir?
For a child's movie.
Middle-aged, they're more like
My
grandfather.
Yeah,
age.
they're great. Yeah.
The fact that you can be so wrong and so correct in the same sentence is just amazing to me.
I get it. What's Short Round's his real name? I can't remember what it is.
Ki
Ki-Hu Kwan.
Yes, thank you. I'm happy to see him get like a resurgence in his career because I think he's a pretty genuinely solid person. I've seen comments and interviews with him. He just seems like he's happy to be there. You know what I mean? So I'm down if he wants to come back into Hollywood and make some cool movies. But why do they just keep freaking tapping into the same old nostalgic bullcrap, and they're just gonna ruin it. And it's just like it never ends well. I don't get it. Like, just stop doing that. Get something new. Make something new. If you want to bring these actors back, cool. But like they just keep tapping into the same crap. And it's like, oh, let's make Indiana Jones 8 with a freaking 95-year-old Harrison Ford, and let's make freaking this movie from the 80s, but now everybody's old and shitty. It's like, please don't. Please just stop.
Well,
that's it. That's my opinion on it.
Odin, there's a paragraph in this Deadline article that says that Warner's ended 2024 with $3.2 billion at the global box office. Per the latest updated figures from Deadline's Nancy Tartaglione, off 19% from 2023's $3.94 billion. Domestic in 2024 came in at $1.1 billion, down 23% from 2023. The worldwide deficit between the 2023 and 2024 is more or less due to the overseas results of Barbie, which brought in like close to $1 billion. So Warner Brothers is definitely feeling like some type of impact from the choices that they've been making for their movie slate. And this seems like a kind of a drastic way to kind of to correct that by getting back to filmmakers that they think can deliver stuff the audiences want to see, even though like the slate that they listed in this article doesn't seem all that appealing, because you got people like Bong Joon-ho, who did the Best Picture winner, Parasite. Thank you. He's got Mickey 17 coming out, which just has no buzz behind it whatsoever. We've got Minecraft, which Warner Brothers is co-producing with Universal, and a lot of people are like, I don't know if that looks very good. Ryan Coogler has this movie coming out called Sinners that I don't know anything about. Then you have F1 with Brad Pitt, but that seems to be more focused on the European audience. You have James Gunn's Superman, which seems to be the biggest one here. An untitled Paul Thomas Anderson picture. Maggie Gyllenhaal, who I didn't even know was a director. She's making a movie called The Bride, which is like $100 million film that's in turnaround from Netflix that they acquired. There's just a lot of stuff on here that doesn't seem like super interesting, at least to me. Do you think that Warner Brothers getting back to the auteur-centric strategy that they had pre-COVID is going to be a winner for them?
It's hard to say, because the issue I always have whenever a studio tries to list off like, oh, we made X amount of dollars globally at the box office, is that it leaves out a major factor of, okay, that's not accounting for our spending on the actual project and on the fact that you don't get 100% of those box office receipts. So whereas they in 2024, they definitely had some films that did fine. They also had the likes of Furiosa, a Mad Max saga film, which just didn't do much of anything. You also had Joker 2, which was one of the biggest flops of the year as well. And so, whereas I do think they probably ended up making some of that back theatrically, because you also had the likes of Godzilla, which on paper were not that successful, but because of their deal with China, specifically through Legendary and the China's influence with that. All we know so for those that don't know, China takes takes 75% of the box office receipts from Western films that get released over there. So it's actually a really bad investment, because yes, your global total might get higher, but your return is garbage. And so basically the mindset was that because Legendary's involvement and Legendary had been bought or at least had major investment from Chinese firms, that their percentage would actually be a better, like their take from the box office would be better. But all we knew, and the only thing that was ever said by an executive from that company was it's better than 25%. It's like, okay, but does that mean it's 30%? Does that mean it's 40%? We really just don't know. They never told us the exact number there. But even with all that being taken into account, I don't think this return is necessarily going to be a big win for them, because it sounds like they're still spending a lot of money. Again, $100 million for a Maggie Gyllenhaal directed movie? I don't get that. That doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, it's awesome that they're spending money on people that are mentally challenged.
I mean, and then also, like, I know people are excited for Superman, but there is no guarantee with that film either. I mean, we really just don't know what that film is going to do. I mean, it could do as well as doing $800+ million. It could also end up crapping out at like $500 to $600 million, right? We just really don't know at this point what that kind of movie is going to do. So it's hard to say. It's a little too early to tell. I will say this much, though. I'm looking forward to Mickey 17. So I know you said there's not a lot of buzz around it, but I'm buzzworthy towards it.
I mean, like, it should be a good movie because, you know, the guy who's behind it. But I don't think Robert Pattinson has like a big enough male fan base to like want to watch that movie, and it's not romance, so the female fan base that he has might not show up. And plus, it's been delayed multiple times, and nobody really knows what the movie's about. The trailers have been kind of lackluster, yeah. So I don't know. It might be one of those passion projects that, you know, the studio.
It's not going to do well. I mean, its budget is ranged between $80 and $150 million, so I don't think it's going to make money. But I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be good.
Well, a good thing is you get to see Robert Pattinson die over and over again.
That sounds amazing. I'm watching.
A lot of people who grew up with Twilight would know that was on all the time. I wish he died, and now I get to see it.
Now, if that's what the movie's about, I'm going to be there opening night.
Oh yeah. So real quick before I move on to Tom, Odin, what do you think the box office for Captain America: Brave New World is going to be?
Oh, goodness. Worldwide, I think that you could potentially see it range from being generous, and this is still too early to tell, so I think between 4 and 750 million. So if it ends up being a massive flop, I think it'll still low end be 400 million-ish worldwide. And then I think even that the best case scenario for the film would be 750, 800. It's not going to get anywhere close to the money it needs to make to break even. So it's going to be the biggest flop, or one of the biggest flops of the year for sure.
Well, I saw the final trailer for it, and it's obvious that Disney does not know how to market this movie. There's just like no one's excited for this film. No one.
So, except us. We get to break into it.
That's right. We get to get YouTube monies off of that movie.
Yes.
Speaking of YouTube monies, Tom Connors Jr., I want to ask you. So basically, Warner Brothers fired their worldwide marketing president, Josh Goldstein, and their international theatrical distribution president, Andrew Cripps, in advance of this new strategy of theirs. And a lot of people are saying, like, these are the guys that brought them Barbie, and they can't understand why they would let these guys go. You mentioned before that, there's always these rumors of like, oh, we're getting new Goonies, oh, we're getting new Gremlins. But it does seem like Warner Brothers is kind of like trying to see like, okay, what type of assets do we have available to us, and how can we start using them to actually make money? What's your take on the behind the scenes executive shakeup and how that relates to their current strategy?
Well, when it comes to Goonies and Gremlins, these are always on their development slate because they're two of the most popular franchises they have, along with Beetlejuice. That's why we got Beetlejuice. And that's probably why they're considering it again. And they've had Chris Columbus working on sequels for years. And the problem with that is for Gremlins, he wrote the first script, but after that, they took it over, and his original version wasn't what we come to know as Gremlins. As far as Goonies goes, like, I think that ship has sailed years ago. One-Eye Willie is long gone. I mean, what are we going to do? Sit there and watch the grandkids with the grandparents running around? I really don't see. And if you just get a new set of kids in the Goondocks, then it's no different than a straight-to-video sequel or remake, right? So at that point, neither one of those are going to really work probably. Gremlins has a little bit more potential, but when 2/3 of your cast is dead when it comes to Gremlins, what are you going to do? It's going to basically end up being a reboot of some sorts. And at this point, what do? Do you make a sequel to the first movie or the second movie? Because the second movie is a way different film than the first movie was. All those things aside, though, they're always constantly in development. Seriously, Google it. Every few months, there's an announcement. In fact, Corey Feldman come out again and said, here we are 4 months later having to say, no, there is no Goonies 2 yet, or at least we haven't heard anything about it. because it's in development. Development doesn't mean shit. A movie can be in production, in pre-production, and still get pulled from the schedule. Look at what happened to Superman Lives, right? There's a great example of that. Film was literally days away from shooting, or the Justice League film that was days away from shooting with George Miller. These things happen all the time. I'll believe there's a Goonies 2 and a Gremlins 3 the moment the cameras start rolling and I actually see some behind the scenes photos or footage. Now, as far as the shakeup goes at Warner Brothers, well, a lot of these people are probably still some of the people that are left over from Killar's regime. And maybe these are the guys that had something to do with Barbie, but who's to say they didn't have something to do with Joker 2 and Furiosa, right? Like, that's the other thing we got to take into consideration here. Because now we're finally getting to the slate of films of when Zaslav came into power. He couldn't take credit for some of these other hits they just had recently, but going forward, he's gonna be responsible. So it's all falling on his shoulders and James Gunn's lap as far as Superman goes. Because we don't know how Superman's going to turn out, and I've been predicting that Superman is going to be the barometer for whether or not superhero movies are dead or not. Because we're at this point now where we have not had a success unless it's a Deadpool or a Spider-Man or something like that. Even Batman isn't a sure thing anymore. And that's what I kept trying to tell people about the Pattinson Batman film, was that, the studio saw that the audience was willing to move on from Ben Affleck as Batman, but the Batman should have made $1 billion.
Easily,
when the Joker made $1 billion, there's no excuse for the Batman not, and you can throw whatever excuse you want out there. It's 3 hours long. It's this, it's that, it's the other. No, it should have made $1 billion, and it didn't. So we're at this point now where you've got 3 movies coming from Marvel this year, and if they're lucky, one of them might be a hit. And Superman is poised to be the biggest opening of the year, but that doesn't mean it's going to be the biggest film of the year. So right now, Warner Brothers is in a shaky ground. Everybody's in shaky ground in Hollywood. They've got to find new footing. They can't rely on the superhero films so much going forward, and they need to try and find whatever the next new thing is. And the sad part is they got to start from square one, and I've been saying this for a while. They got to reestablish the movie star, and then once they reestablish the movie star, then the rest of the work begins. And then you got to start finding good stories again, build your own IPs and franchises, because that's the other problem, is they've gotten way too reliant on IPs and franchises. And that's another reason why I'm sitting here looking at Gremlins and Goonies going, are you friggin' retarded? Beetlejuice was an exception to the rules. That was something that the audience, like Top Gun 2, has wanted for so long that they finally got, right? For better or for worse. You start doing that with Goonies and Gremlins, it's not going to work out so well. There's a reason why we haven't had a sequel to those movies in 35, 40 years.
Well, Tom, you know what else didn't work out so well, and I want to throw this to Reaper, is The Flash. And recently on a podcast, director Andy Muschietti kind of talked about his thoughts about why his Flash movie failed. And it kind of goes hand in hand with what we were talking about with Warner Brothers, where basically Warner Brothers has this thing called like the 4 quadrants, right? And that's like 4 quadrants of the audience. You have young males, older males, young women, older women. And in order for a movie to be a broad success, it needs to appeal to all 4 of those quadrants. And Muschietti said that basically women over 25 and women under 25 didn't show up for The Flash for whatever reason. And
I hate to break his heart, but nobody showed up for The Flash.
I want to get Reaper's take on this because basically what Andy Muschietti revealed in this podcast was that in personal conversations he had with people, that the Flash is not a character that people care about as much as, like, let's say Superman or Batman.
It's ridiculous.
And in addition to that, the women just didn't like Ezra Miller, so he had a lot of things going against him when he was doing this Flash movie. But in this interview, he seemed to forego a lot of other factors that led to this movie not being too good. What's your take on this?
Well, it's very difficult for your film to be a success when your star is literally on the run for strangling a pregnant woman and attacking someone at a bar.
Yeah, for real.
I mean, that's just one problem of the movie. It was just a disaster from start to finish. And besides, men overwhelmingly watch the superhero genre more than women do. And yet, saying that the Flash is not a character that people care about is just ridiculous because he's been a mainstay in the Justice League for decades. It's just, did he not watch his own movie? Have you seen the CGI in it? Where they put the babies in the microwave It's like
I think that was a.
there is a point where you talk to them and go, you need someone to make a film for you because you clearly don't understand what you're making.
To be fair, he made that movie in 1996. I mean,
putting babies in the microwave was just an Illuminati freaking signal. You know, that was a Hollywood. They had to put that in there, otherwise somebody was going to die.
You know, Reaper. I think another big factor in the Flash's failure is that basically this movie, it was delayed multiple times, but it was clear that the Snyderverse was dead by the time this movie came out, and so there was no reason to invest in this character anymore. Because James Gunn had basically come out and said, like, yeah, well, we're moving on. So do you think that had anything to do with the fact that people just didn't care about the Flash?
Oh, definitely. I mean, who wants to see the last breath of a dying body? I mean, that's the part you don't want to see. And it is funny how James Gunn said this film doesn't matter, but at the same time turned around and said, oh no, it's the best movie he's ever seen. Which is just clearly bullshit.
Well,
he didn't get the cinematographer from Flash onto a Superman film, so he might actually believe it.
Well, Brian, you and I, when we saw The Flash, we didn't think it was a bad movie necessarily, but it was definitely something that I feel was like mishandled and mistimed. But the crazy thing about what I took from this article with Andy Muschietti saying people don't care about The Flash, you and I were big fans of like the TV show The Flash, and people were like, they loved the TV show, they loved Grant Gustin, they were wondering why Grant Gustin wasn't the Flash in the movies and stuff like that.
First 3 seasons, but yeah,
first 3, then it got really bad. But same is true of Arrow and all those other shows.
That's true.
So like, what's your take on Muschietti's assertion that people just don't like the Flash?
That's silly. The Flash is one of the most popular characters in DC. I mean, James Gunn can take a talking raccoon that 3 people have heard of and turn it into $1 billion movie. You're telling me you can't take the Flash and make money with it? That's insane. It's silly. The Flash is one of the most popular characters in comic book history. I'm not gonna say he's up there with the Batman or Superman, whatever, but he is close to that popularity. There's been movies and TV shows about the Flash since the 90s. He's a very popular character. That's a really silly statement. I think the problem with the movie was, there was problems with the movie, of course, but also leading up to it, Ezra Miller was literally, like Reaper said, like literally a criminal.
He was a fugitive.
From the law. I remember that story where he got pulled over by some cops. And he's pulling everything out of his pockets, and he pulls out a flash ring, and he puts it on the hood. And he goes,
that's very important. I need that. Yeah.
And he goes, don't lose that. That's important to me. And I was like, oh God, this guy is our next Flash. Like, and it was so bad. Even normies knew that he was, losing his mind. My wife, who doesn't even follow this stuff, was like, isn't that the guy who's like beating up on chicks? I'm like, yeah, that's him. Oh. So, a lot of people didn't want to watch the movie simply because Ezra Miller. And you take into a lot of the other problems in the movie. The CGI was sort of crazy. Like, there was a lot of hate around the movie. Like, people couldn't look past some of these like glaring mistakes. I enjoyed it, but not everyone could.
It is a harder one to adapt in the modern age, I would say, because it's going to need and it's going to use a lot of CGI. And that is something where there are definitely a lot of audience members out there that can either enjoy that or can, at least get past it. But I know there's also a segment where people are kind of getting tired of like just the over CGI fest type movies. And I think that's an issue too with Flash. It's like you kind of almost have to do a film like that these days. And that could, again, also be a hard sell. Why that film especially was a hard sell. There's a lot, as you mentioned, there was a lot of reasons why that film just did not do anything.
Can I make a quick point here? Is they also adapted like his finale. Like Flashpoint is like the last movie you make in the Flash movies. It's not the first.
It's also a stupid story.
It is a stupid story, but like if you're gonna make that movie, you make it after you make 3 other movies or something. You don't start with that. That's like, imagine if Iron Man just started with fighting Thanos. It wouldn't make any sense. That's his last story. They picked the wrong story.
The crazy thing to me is like the whole Flashpoint ending would have been the perfect segue to like create the Gun DC universe. Yeah. It's like they like the ending of the Flash should have been like the start of the Gunniverse, you know, like
100%. I assume they were forced to do it. Like, oh, we're forced to do it because we're changing. So we're going to use this to completely, you know,
it was initially set up to be a reboot, and then that's the I wish I understood why they didn't do that either.
It's because so odd
because it was exactly what we were reporting it to be, and that was it was undoing the Snyderverse, and they were killing Superman, literally killing Superman as a baby, right? Like, I mean, and people didn't believe us at first. We're like, no, this is what's going to happen, guys. They're going to make it the Trinity of Batwoman, Supergirl, and Wonder Woman. And until Batgirl got canceled by Zaslav, that was the path they were on. And that's one of the reasons why the Flash kept getting delayed, because they kept reworking it. As far as we know, the only thing that James Gunn added to the mix just confused matters more. And that was bringing in George fucking Clooney for no good fucking reason that makes no sense to anybody. Because I still stand here and I go, Michael Keaton and him are the same Batman.
Yeah,
this multiverse shit weird. Does not work here. Like
the Michael Keaton thing was weird. They had the perfect like if you have to do that story, like it makes sense to use that story to reboot your franchise and like maybe tell the audience that are paying attention what's happening, and they just didn't. And
he should have, because he's keeping all these actors, which would have made more sense then. Because this is where I think things are going to get confusing going forward.
You're right.
You're going to have a lot of people thinking Superman's supposed to be a complete reboot, but yet all of a sudden when you got Amanda Waller and some of these other people popping in that are the same exact actors acting against Jason Momoa now playing Lobo and shit, people are going to be going, what the fuck is going on here? Because guess what? The general audience doesn't pay attention to the shit that nerds do.
No, they don't.
Like the Ezra Miller thing, you guys are right. That was one of the few things that kind of bled over into the mainstream, but I don't think that was the biggest problem in the film. I just think there was no interest in it whatsoever. Even when they're saying, we've got Michael fucking Keaton, and they're like, and everybody's kind of like, yeah, okay, and you know, like at this point, nobody could give a shit, because we're just so done with these superhero movies, I think, as a whole, unless it's something like Deadpool and Wolverine. And then when Spider-Man No Way Home, which was a result of The Flash, ends up beating it to the punch, the audience is kind of like, yeah, we've already seen this. It was called Spider-Man No Way Home.
And when it comes to Michael Keaton, unless you were like alive in the 80s, like no one
exactly
cared, right?
And that's the other thing, is the Snyder Bros fucking dump on him constantly. So yeah.
I mean, I love the Michael Keaton cameo.
Oh yeah,
I'm not gonna lie.
But no. I thought
they kill him 3 times in the fucking movie, though. That's the other problem.
Yeah, but Michael Keaton in the movie was good. But it's just like if you didn't grow up with him as your Batman, like there's no point to it. Like you don't care. There's no investment there. So, but you know what does have an investment? Our super chat. So we got WG for $50. Beverage fund.
Woo! Woo! Yeah.
WG, you have almost buy a drink for all of us. One of us is not getting a drink.
WG, you have no idea how expensive it is to keep that fridge where Alex is at stocked. Because he tears through.
Especially when you delay it by a month and then take the 30% from YouTube's cut.
I'll forego the drink and let Odin have some wine. How's that sound?
Yeah. I'm straight edge. You're just wasting your money at that point.
Every little bit helps. Oh, it's the Jesus juice, Odin. You got to drink it.
It's Jesus juice. I don't drink.
Non-alcoholic wine, aka grape juice.
So, guys, we talked a little bit about how Ezra Miller was a little bit of a degenerate when it comes to the ladies. But guess what? There's someone new that we can point fingers at, and his name is Neil Gaiman. And it has coming out recently about charges of abuse. Up to 9 women have come forward to talk about some very disturbing behavior by the guy who, by all accounts, is the premier male feminist out there.
And chose to take that photograph.
Yes, and
somebody passed the butter.
So, guys,
I'm shocked that the liberal feminist is a sexual predator. I'm shocked.
Well, guys,
allegedly.
So can you take the creepiest photo possible?
Yeah, for real, dude. Yeah, look at that. He looks like
he okayed that
with hair.
Yeah,
he's an artiste.
Guys, this Vulture article, which is linked in the description, this is actually like probably one of the best articles I've read in a long time. And it goes in depth into all the accusations, these women who are coming forward. They're actually breaking NDAs, coming forward, talking about their experiences with Neil Gaiman. It goes in depth into his kind of relationship with his wife or ex-wife, Amanda Palmer, and her role, because she's an outspoken feminist, but she seems to have been covering up a lot of like his bad behavior.
Shocker.
And this kind of goes part and parcel with like the whole like quote unquote male feminist thing, where you had like Joss Whedon, right? Where he was like, oh, I'm a male feminist. I'm all about, supporting women and stuff like that. Turns out he was a lech, and basically he got canceled because of all this stuff. And when you hear the term male feminist, it's basically just an excuse. It's a shield, much like Brian is a shield for our show, where we can talk about anything we want.
That's right.
Because, he's queer, he's here, he's non-binary.
Right,
yeah, exactly. But when someone says they're a male feminist, that's basically just a shield that they use to mask their terrible behavior. Now, I'm not going to go into detail into all the nitty gritty behind like what he did, because some of it's like truly like disturbing and disgusting. But the overview here is basically Neil Gaiman grew up in an abusive Scientology household. He then became famous for his Sandman comic books, which led into novels, which have been, adapted by Hollywood. And so he became very rich, and he, by all accounts, got into a BDSM lifestyle, which is basically bondage, discipline, sadomasochism. And the thing about BDSM lifestyles, apparently, according to this article, is that they're all based around consent between the two parties involved. But with Neil Gaiman, he had this whole master-slave complex. And so like he didn't care about consent. And so a lot of these times with these women that are accusing him, he basically just, sexually assaulted them, essentially, according to them, allegedly. And his attorneys who are defending him on this are basically saying like, yeah, this happened, but it was between two consenting adults in a BDSM relationship. And that's not illegal, right? And so basically there's a part in this article where the main girl who's making this allegation has a talk with Amanda Palmer, who's his ex-wife, and she's like a musician, and she's very big on Patreon and stuff like that. And she says that she talks about the experiences that she had with Neil, and Amanda Palmer says like, oh, you're one of 18 women who've come to me about this, and like I'll handle it for you. And so like basically she like this feminist like musical icon is part and parcel responsible for his bad behavior. It's kind of like Leslie Headland with Harvey Weinstein and stuff like that. And but the crazy thing about the story is there's no fallout from it, and it's because Neil Gaiman has like his he's on the right side of the political aisle when it comes to this type of stuff. Like when Russell Brand got accused of something far less disgusting than what is being levied at Neil Gaiman, like people actively tried to destroy his career. When it comes to Neil Gaiman, it's just like, oh, Amazon replaced him as the showrunner for the finale of Good Omens, and that's pretty much all there is to it. Like the story isn't being circulated wide and far like it was with Harvey Weinstein. So you have a situation here where basically Neil Gaiman, who's a male feminist, is pretty much going to get away with mistreating all these women, and it's pretty disgusting. We've seen this in the past with people like Roman Polanski and stuff like that, where basically Hollywood is okay with bad behavior as long as you're in the right cocktail circuit. And so I just want to have like a kind of honest discussion about this. I'm going to start with Reaper. Even though Neil Gaiman isn't from like he's not British, but he grew up in the UK, and so like a lot of people think he's British, and they're looking at him as like, oh, this is just another example of like
that's just those Brits.
Yeah,
BDSM, unconsensual rape. That's just the UK.
Exactly.
Yeah, where was that line of thought going?
Oh, quirky Neil. He gets stuff from us.
Yeah. So Reaper, what's your take on this?
Well, what did the women think when you were talking to his wife? Going, yeah, your husband just sexually assaulted me. Can you do something about him? Put him in the corner. Take his money from him. Go with the police. Did they actually go with the police? I'm not 100% sure. But I don't get the whole talk. I think the talking to his wife was probably a hush money.
So they did go to the police, but the police said that unless his wife could corroborate what they said, there was no case there, and so a lot of these police complaints got dismissed as case closed.
See, I thought if they just went to his wife, I'd go, "Why would you do that?" That would be just a weird thing to do, but that makes sense.
Well, oftentimes his wife was responsible for.
Well, and didn't like 2 or 3 of the girls did go to the police, but then there was payoffs and NDAs and all that other stuff. That's kind of the thing.
Okay.
And here's the other thing too, and here's the problem with this whole situation. Do I think that personally? Do I think Gaiman's guilty of some of this stuff? Yes, but I also feel like some of these women facilitated this, because if you even read, and I'm not trying to victim blame, but if you read through the whole thing, the one victim doesn't even say no until some of the most horrific acts are already over. And then she still is in a relationship with the guy. And I get it. It's a complicated mess. And it's really strange, because this is the same thing with like the Harvey Weinstein case. Because I read through the whole case and I'm like, do I think he's guilty of a lot of stuff that people are saying? Oh, fuck yes. But reading through this case, I don't know how the hell he got convicted of anything, because a lot of it was hearsay. And when you're in a relationship with somebody, it's very tough to prove assault without any sort of physical evidence whatsoever, whether it's you go to the doctor right after the assault happens, whether there's a text message exchange between the two of you. And that's the problem, is it doesn't sound like anything really supports this girl's story outside of a few things. And some of the other stories I don't know all the specifics of, but then his dumb ass comes out and puts out the fucking statement where he confirms some of it and then he denies some of it, but doesn't specify which, right? And then he apologizes for bad behavior. And it's like, well, once you do that, you've basically owned this shit, Gaiman, right? At that point. And you've got all these NDAs and other things out there that really kind of make the whole thing look messy as hell. And again, so I think you've got him taking advantage of vulnerable women. You've got women taking advantage of the fact that they get to hang out with this guy. The one girl was more enamored with Amanda Palmer than anybody. So that's the other weird wrinkle in this mess, because it even gets people like Xena Warrior Princess involved. I don't know if you guys heard about this, because Amanda was with what's her face, the chick who plays her,
Lucy Lawless.
Lucy Lawless, when she met one of these girls. And so like, this is just a weird thing that has been going on for years. And honestly, the whole thing just stinks to high heaven, because there's been payouts already, there's been NDAs, and it's like all of a sudden now you guys are all deciding to cancel this guy. And I have no love for Neil Gaiman. I could give a shit. I've never read any of his books. I don't care, right? I think he's one of the OG emos, right? Like, to me, that's what he is. So if women find that shit attractive, that's their own fault. If they get involved in this shit, look, say no and leave. Like, the motherfucker has a bathtub in his backyard, not a jacuzzi, a fucking bathtub, and there's pictures of it. All right. And I'm sitting here looking at it going, where's the plumbing for this fucking thing? Apologize for the language, but I mean, it's like, all right, if that wasn't enough for you to say, all right, peace, I'm out, Mr. Gaiman, then honestly, after whatever happens after that point, you kind of signed up for it. That's what I feel like. And I'm not trying to victim shame, but at the same time, Gaiman's a depraved, perverted freak. We know this from his work, right? It's some of the most artistic people in the world. Guess what? They're the freakiest. That's just the way it is. Motherfucker's got an obsession with butter. We don't even want to get into specifics with this shit here. This shit is so nasty.
Man, it's like those people who get in a relationship with freaking like Marilyn Manson.
Right.
And they're like, oh, he was such a weird.
He was such a weirdo. It's like,
such a weirdo.
It's Marilyn fucking Manson.
No, really?
Really? Did you think he was going to be like Pee Wee Herman? Bad example, but still.
Well, what's interesting here is that, no criminal charges have been brought against Neil Gaiman, but this was an in-depth investigation where like they found like a bunch of women who didn't know each other and independently have like all these like kind of like patterns of behavior for him, and like things that he makes them say and things that he makes them do. And he uses his money as leverage to basically kind of like force these women into these situations where he has sex with them, allegedly. And I just want to read you guys what his representatives said about this. He said that Neil Gaiman's official position is that sexual degradation, bondage, domination, sadism, and masochism may not be
what are
to
we doing
everyone's
here?
taste, but between consenting adults, BDSM is lawful. So I want to ask you, Odin, just you know,
Of course.
Yeah, Odin the Christian. What do you
Now
think
that I've
about
given you that description of his sexual preferences, let me ask you your thoughts on the matter.
Well, no, not about his preferences, but
What do you feel about butter, Odin?
Are you pro butter, Odin? But here's the thing I want to ask you. So like you have this obviously like dangerous kind of like bad behavior, and Hollywood's just kind of cool with it, and it's because Neil Gaiman, he goes to the right cocktail parties, he has the right politics. What does it take for Hollywood to actually like punish people for their behavior, do you think?
I mean, it takes, honestly, the worst crimes imaginable that are publicly known and proven. Basically, like, had there been actual evidence of anything that this guy had done with like kids, like especially nowadays where I feel like the general public is a lot more sensitive to that kind of stuff, I think that might have been enough to at the very least put him on like that list. But even then, right, with Hollywood, it doesn't take them very long often, even in those cases, to make the path of redemption very easy for them.
I don't know if you read this in the article or not, but there were situations where he had his kid in the room when he was doing things to these women.
Why?
And that's again, I hate that I even have to put it this way, but like that just shows you like just how depraved Hollywood is, because that is not really what is at all getting out. Like mostly what I'm saying is that if it had been that the victim was that, I personally think that makes that child a victim, because that child has now been scarred for life. And it's just, again, to me, even more so than anything else, I don't think there's ever going to be anything that's going to have them hold each other accountable unless we hold them accountable. Like that's really what it comes down to. They're not going to do anything unless we, the audience, the people, actually do something, actually say something, actually try to bring, real change about, because they're so depraved. And I mean, this is something that unfortunately has just really pervaded Hollywood since almost its entire inception, where there's always been a lot of these problems and issues, right? If you look at, for instance, broken marriages, like the highest percentage of broken marriages you'll ever find is in Hollywood. If you look at almost anything,
and
right?
Open marriages too.
Open marriages, right? And then as you get along, as things get further advanced and further along, right? Especially after the sexual revolution, now anything, especially when it comes to sexual depravity, you're always going to find the highest concentration of it in Hollywood. So there's just something about the business and about the industry that either brings those people in or warps those people into those kinds of persons. It's really hard to say which one is which. Maybe it's a little bit of both. But it honestly is just kind of crazy, because it kind of just reminds me a little bit of, and obviously not the same at all, Neil Gaiman and a lot of the other people that we could probably think of, but the one that comes up in my mind is the situation of James Gunn, right, where he said a lot of really weird jokes that involved mentioning like kids, and
PDF
at one
files.
point at one point he actually dressed as a priest and went to a party like as a pedophile priest, and it was just like okay, there's like there's a lot of things that I think are honestly just so depraved about Hollywood. It makes them deserve all of the prayers in the world for their conversion, because there needs to be I think Father Chad Ripperger, who's a well-known exorcist, needs to go throughout all of Hollywood, all the studios, and just exorcise the demons, because it's bad.
Well, speaking of open marriages and stuff like that, Brian, not that you're in an open marriage.
Wow.
But
you gotta work on your segues, bro.
Neil Gaiman's wife, Amanda Palmer, when they first got together, they were in an open relationship. They actively encouraged each other to have affairs when they were like away from each other. And Amanda Palmer she's bisexual. She would pick up other women, and then she would kind of like, once she was done with them, she would feed them to her husband. Essentially, she'd like, kind of like provide him
like piranhas.
Yeah, pretty much. She'd provide him like new sexual
like
partners.
Leslie Headland.
Exactly. And the crazy thing about this is that both her and Neil Gaiman have all been kind of like praised as examples of like feminists, like people putting women first and stuff like that. But I'd highly encourage people to read this article, because like it goes so in depth into like everything wrong with like Hollywood and celebrities and stuff like that nowadays. But the reason that a lot of people are saying that this stuff is coming out now is because Amanda Palmer and Neil Gaiman are in the middle of a very contentious divorce. And basically Amanda Palmer has been bankrupted by this divorce. and fighting him. And so what she's trying to do is trying to bring these allegations to light as a pressure tactic in order to get him to kind of like, give her some of like the money and property and stuff like that he owns. So what's your take on this whole thing?
I don't have much of a take, bro. I didn't even know who that person was until today. So sounds like he is a douchebag. But I don't know. I do know that Hollywood is, in Odin's right, just rife with depravity over depravity. And you only see the surface stuff. We don't ever really see how bad it really is. I wouldn't be surprised if like well-known names that we knew were just into the same exact stuff. They just haven't gotten out yet. So I don't have much of an opinion because I don't know the guy, but I am disgusted by his actions or alleged actions.
Well, Alex, what's crazy about this is that as Neil Gaiman was kind of like gaining celebrity and renown through like comic books and novels and stuff like that, a lot of his quote unquote alleged victims were basically fans of his, and he'd go to like all these like fan events and like these award shows and stuff like that. And young girls who were like super into his stuff would like run up to him and like, basically throw themselves at him. And so like he'd start, kind of preying on people, some as young as 18. And like, technically he never broke a law, and all this stuff, but he rode that line on there. And this is something that we actually see from a lot of people in Hollywood. Like, you have Puff Daddy, you have like, all these examples of celebrities who were like kind of like in a protected class that get exposed for bad behavior, but then like they don't really pay any consequences for it. So what's your take on that?
It's because they all work for the CIA, and it's all just a blackmail tactic to get rich and famous people to do what they want. And to, I'm sorry, did you want the truth, or do you want me to just be like, oh, I think this guy's a piece of shit? Yeah, no shit.
You're turning the fucking frogs gay.
It's because they're all freaking in the same club. They're like, oh, we all need to go support
Adrenochrome.
We all need to support the latest freaking Democratic president because we're all freaking compromised with all this blackmail. We're all a bunch of freaks.
Man.
Like, dude.
Come on, man. Give me some of that Adrenochrome, please, man.
It's all part of the same club, dude.
Yeah.
They're all freaking freaks.
Corn Pop used to suck the blood out of small children, too.
You think it's a lie? It's not. It's real. it's not even a conspiracy anymore. It's just this thing that everybody knows. I don't know. It's absolutely horrendously ridiculous, and it makes me I kind of understand why Dutch Butters faked his own death at this point. Because I don't want to talk about this shit at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. This is terrible.
I guess you're just QAnon adjacent now.
You say what you want, bro. That shit's real. They tell you what they do. They make movies with these horrendous scenes in it. You go watch Mother with Jennifer Lawrence, and they're like, why are they eating a baby in that movie? Because they're telling you what they do in Hollywood. They're like, this is the shit that we do. This is how you get into the club, guys.
I will fight against that.
Matt, if you wanted this to be a monetized stream.
I was going to say, I'll fight against that only to make this point. It was not to say that. It was to, I think, mock Catholics. Because as Catholics, we believe to consume the body and blood of Christ. And so I think that was actually what his intention was to mock it.
Because you're allowed to make fun of that religion.
Oh, you're allowed to make fun of Christians.
You can't make fun of any
other
religion. Just Christians. I wonder why that is. Maybe it's because there are a bunch of crazy demonistic freaking worshiping psychopaths who run the entire town. Maybe that's why they hate God.
That's why. Maybe it's because you hate Christians. Because they're
a little too close to home.
Jesus Christ, man! What is
I
this?
I want to see a 2-hour live stream of just Alex just talking about this kind of stuff every Sunday night at like 2 in the morning. So, sort of like the Coast to Coast show.
His soul slowly is just getting sucked out of him as he has to talk about these topics every time.
What is this? I started this podcast because I liked movies. I don't think I like movies anymore, man. What the hell?
Well, you know what we do like, Alex, are super chats. So we got 32 for £2. Neil Gaiman should be punished, but he'd like it.
That's a good point.
Ooh, that's good.
Well, actually, because I guess he's technically I don't even know the terminology.
He's a dom.
Dom?
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Mm-hmm. So Eric Winberg gifted 1 Salty Nerd podcast membership. Thank you, Eric. That brings us to a total of 11. So we need 4 more gifted subs to hit our goal for today. So if you guys are thinking about gifting any subs, now is the time to do it. All right. You know what else it's time to do, guys? It's time to get to our top story of the day, which is Trump's Hollywood ambassadors. Yes, this is actually kind of crazy stuff on X and Truth Social. Trump announced that he's tapping Jon Voight, Mel Gibson, and Sylvester Stallone to be his special ambassadors in Hollywood.
This was designed just to trigger people.
These are the only names that Trump knows that came from Hollywood.
And the best part was I heard Mel Gibson.
Guys that I watched when I was younger. I like those guys. Let's make them in charge. Like, yeah, okay, buddy.
And my favorite part is that apparently, like, Gibson had no idea that was about to happen. He was never talked to about this. He's like, "Oh,
that sounds good, I guess." Yeah, why not?
Yeah, but here's the actual tweet. It says, "It is my honor to announce Jon Voight, Mel Gibson, and Sylvester Stallone to be special ambassadors to a great but very troubled place, Hollywood, California. They will serve as special envoys to me for the purpose of bringing Hollywood, which has lost much of its business over the last 4 years to foreign countries, back bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. These three very talented people will be my eyes and ears, and I will get done what they suggest. It will be like the United States of America itself, the golden age.
The golden age of Hollywood.
What if they just suggest to ban the city?
Someone said Kevin Sorbo. Kevin Sorbo's pissed right now that he didn't even get a phone call.
Oh, he would have taken.
He's been stumping for Trump for like 6 years.
James Woods is another.
James Woods, yeah. What the heck?
Well, I think the difference here is that these guys are still actively involved in making stuff in Hollywood, whereas I believe Kevin Sorbo is mostly retired. And
doesn't he work with Angel Studios though?
He only does Pure Flix now.
Yeah,
he does Hallmark stuff too, right?
But the big question here was like, okay, what are these ambassadors going to do? And basically, what Trump is kind of getting at is he wants like a direct line into like how to bring more Hollywood production back to the United States, because a lot of these productions are going to like Canada or the UK or Australia, where there's like government tax credits, where they can actually, like, all the Star Wars stuff is shot in the UK, and that's because Disney gets like 30% of everything they spend back at that point, and they can also write off actors' salaries and get some of that compensated for them. And so I think Trump just wants people who kind of like are not just actors in Hollywood, but also like, you know, producers, and like they actually like make stuff, and they have like, you know, they've been in it for a long time. I think it's funny that the Road Warrior and Rambo are both, you know, his ambassadors on this one. But it's very interesting because basically this can be a two-way thing where basically these guys can advise Trump on how to court more business from Hollywood, but he can also kind of use them as backdoors into the studio system to get the studios to change their behavior or influence what they're making and stuff like that. So I want to start with you, Reaper. What do you think of Trump assigning these three celebrities to his Hollywood ambassadorship, apparently without even telling them ahead of time?
I don't even know what they're gonna do. Like, what if they just come back and say, yeah, there's too many pedo rings inside Hollywood? What's he supposed to do? Is he gonna blow the city up?
It's already been half blown up.
Yeah.
God already did that for him.
Seriously, man. Gosh. Sodom and Gomorrah much?
Yeah, right.
I mean, like, what are they supposed to do? Like, what power do they have? It's just they kind of go, yeah, they're making more gay films. What are we gonna do? Tell them no.
I think the purpose of this is so that these guys have a direct line to Trump. Like they could literally like just contact him directly and say, hey, you know, we need to do this or this or this or that. And so instead of going through the regular process of like meeting, like, you know, even Mark Hamill, when he went to meet with President Biden, he had to go through like a bunch of, you know, middlemen and advisors and handlers and stuff like that. These guys can basically just show up at the White House whenever they want.
Hey, Donnie.
Trump's just going to say, stop making me the bad guy in everything. And they're just going to go, no.
I think it's more about it's more about the business and not the culture. I think that's what he's getting at.
Yeah,
the culture's affecting the business. You've got like just making awful movies because they were petty about Trump, cost them a fortune.
That's true, but a lot of money is going overseas too.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, yeah, Matt kind of hit this on the head. And look, we can poke fun at these guys all we want. Sylvester Stallone and Mel Gibson are two of the biggest international stars of all time. They're very well known. Sly still has one of the biggest shows on TV right now. Gibson's gearing up to do a sequel to Passion of the Christ. I mean, these guys are still active. Jon Voight's one of the most... Yeah.
Yeah,
it's the resurrection of the Christ.
Resurrection. This time.
It's the story of the resurrection. It's the story of the resurrection. Yeah.
But like that, it's not like just
and
one
Voight
day.
is one of the most, he's got all sorts of accolades and everything like that. Yeah, I think this is about getting business back in the U.S. I mean, this is a direct shot at like Disney doing the shit they're doing over in London and shit like that. Constantly shooting shit. Like, that's the problem we have right now. Hollywood just burnt down and nobody's shooting anything in Hollywood anyway. That's why everybody's like, well, is this going to really impact Hollywood as a whole? Everybody's like, no, not really. Because 90% of the productions are outside of Hollywood.
Well, we've been shooting at Pinewood and other studios like that since the late 70s, dude. What's the difference?
Yeah, but the big difference then is when George Lucas went and shot, Star Wars over there, 80% of the productions were still shot in California. Right? Like nowadays, like 60% are probably done in Canada. Another 20% is probably done in Australia. And the other rest are mostly done in Georgia. More movies are shot in Georgia than anywhere else.
Yeah, Georgia.
Well, what's interesting about this, Tom, is that I think that this is another pressure point that Trump's using to bully Canada, because like he's already said that we're going to tariff, 25% on all your imports.
That and he's using the fires, exactly. It's all kind of part of the same thing, yeah.
So I think that by him pulling more production into the United States instead of Canada and the UK, he's using it as leverage to get them to the bargaining table to give him the deals that he wants.
That could be too.
Yeah, because Canada is heavily reliant on film production up there and TV production and stuff like that. And if Trump can steal even a fraction of that away back to the States, that could account for hundreds of millions of dollars flooding out of Canada and into the United States as well.
I mean, I know people are poking a little fun at this, but yeah, there is a lot of productions outside the U.S. and comparatively to even 30, 40 years ago, when probably 40, 50% of the productions were still within the U.S., at least Hollywood. Now it's, like I said, you're lucky if 5 to 10% of those are in Hollywood anymore.
Yeah. And Odin, people are kind of surprised about Jon Voight being included in this. I know Jon Voight. I used to kind of hang out with him.
He's a very decorated actor.
He's got a long history in Hollywood. He's Angelina Jolie's father, but he was part of this group called Friends of Abe, which was started by Gary Sinise in Hollywood. It was kind of like a conservative anonymous, how you have Alcoholics Anonymous. Like Friends of Abe was basically like a self-help group for people who didn't have the liberal political beliefs in Hollywood, that they would get together and kind of have
they in the closet, conservatives in the closet.
Yeah, pretty much. It was based off. It was based off this thing called Friends of Dorothy, which in the kind of golden age of Hollywood, that was what they called homosexuals were Friends of Dorothy, and so it was kind of the same thing where homosexuals had to keep their sexual preference hidden while they were working in Hollywood, and same thing with conservatives, and so that's why Gary named it the thing that he did. But so I got to meet and hang out with Jon Voight a couple of times. And he was just such a cool, nice, laid back guy, but he's always been a very outspoken conservative in Hollywood, even to the detriment of his career and an estrangement with his daughter as well. But these three guys, Stallone, Gibson, and Voight, are I think three of the most outspoken conservatives in Hollywood with a big enough profile. And Stallone, man, I mean, his portrayal of Rambo, how more American can you get? I mean, the first Rambo, not too American, is very anti-American, but then by Rambo 3, it's just oh man, he's up there with apple pie.
This movie is dedicated to the strong fighters of the Taliban.
Yeah,
yeah, that was as American as you can get. Let's go to the Middle East and freaking start a war.
Well, at the time, the Taliban was anti-Russian, so
it's gone full circle. There are friends again, aren't
they? Yeah.
But Odin, how do you think these three guys could influence Hollywood having the president's ear?
I don't think it's going to really make too much of a difference. I think this actually more so is more of an honorary title. I think that they're definitely going to have access, right? Because I do think that a big thing that is on Trump's agenda for the next 4 years is to bring a lot of things back. And that includes, Hollywood, movie production, manufacturing, amongst many other things. So this makes a lot of sense for him to have it as a part of that puzzle that he's going to be trying to figure out over the course of the next, of his next term. And I think that has more to do with this than anything else. It also could be his way of trying to maybe thank them for possibly contributions or possibly just vocal support.
Did he just out them as supporters?
I mean, that's the other thing too. It's like, honestly, like, what if that happens to be a part of it? Is like he happens to know that they were big donors, but they didn't publicly like necessarily have that. I don't know.
Stallone spoke at Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, Stallone is more public with that, and I think especially you could. And Voight too, but for me, like, I think a lot of people could probably guess the politics of Mel Gibson. Gibson, I don't remember ever really hear him mentioning Trump or in a positive or negative. He like kind of didn't speak to him too much. I was listening to his recent interview on Rogan, and it really didn't come up all that much, right? And so I think, again, we could probably assume what he is, but
he did say he answers the call though, so I mean, it wasn't like he brushed it off or anything.
Oh yeah. It's just, I think, more of just an interesting way in which he, announced it, to really not having told them about it or talked to them in any way about it in advance, or at least not with Mel Gibson. So it's like interesting.
The thing about Gibson is that he's a very outspoken Christian.
Yes,
and because of that, he got canceled in Hollywood essentially.
Yes. Well, that's also too, like with Gibson, especially when you talk about
the Jews, remember
his faith. Well, also the other. Yeah, he was wrongly portrayed as an anti-Semite, and then his film was painted. The Passion of the Christ was painted as anti-Semitic, and it's just, if you've ever watched the film, I watched that film every year with
totally bombed
with my students. Oh yeah, exactly. But I watched that. I watch that movie every year with my students, and so I've seen that film countless times now, and because I've got 6 different classes, and so I watch it 6 times every year, basically. And it is something where it's just ridiculous for them to even make the point. I think more so it's controversial for him because he has been that he's gotten that label now of the QAnon adjacent or QAnon conspiracy, like him and his lead actor Jim Caviezel, right, have both kind of been given that label. So I think that might also be a part of it. In addition, as a Catholic, right, he actually is a bit even non-mainstream Catholic as well. He's not just a Latin Mass Catholic like for me, like I am personally, but he also is like someone who questions the validity of Pope Francis, and he's basically more on the outskirts of even the Catholic faith. And so that's kind of this, I think his personality is that he's always been kind of more of an outsider in certain ways.
Well, Odin, before we move on to Brian, I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on the announcement of Passion of the Christ 2, Christ Harder? Are you looking for?
Oh my gosh! Well, that's not the title. That's not the title. It's not the title. Okay. It's gonna change. It's gonna be better. No, I'm excited. This is something where it's not really something that was newly announced. It's been in production now and in talks for years. I'm excited for it because he has like huge plans for it. Because it's not just going to be the resurrection. It's going to be like his ideas, it seems, are going to span all the way to like the fall of the angels, and like have it be from like that spiritual perspective, the spiritual like dimension, essentially. So having like an aspect of the fall of the angels, of Satan, of the demons, having like showing of the spiritual battle and spiritual warfare, like tying all of that into the actual resurrection itself, of which part of what we believe is what's called the harrowing of hell, where he frees the just souls of the Old Testament. So you could actually make that really, really cool. And there's a lot of private revelations he can draw from that can add further, details with that. So I'm excited for it. I'm more of the mindset of stop talking about it and film the dang thing. So that way we can finally watch it.
Odin, later on, I'll send you from some storyboards. One of my customers, his name is Sean Sass, and he's been working on Passion of the Christ for like 4 years.
Nice.
And every time he shows up in my shop, he brags about, he shows me all his folders and everything. And I'm just like, that's cool, man. It's really cool. But I thought he was full of crap until they actually announced it. Now I'm like, oh, dude, you're actually doing Passion of the Christ too. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Brian, I want to ask you. So, you have Stallone, Gibson, and Voight here. Do you think that other celebrities, in seeing like how this is going to elevate these guys' profile, having direct access to the president, do you think you're going to see other celebrities kind of crawl out from rocks and make the Damascus journey conversion, where they're like, okay, I'm a Trumper now because that gives me a little bit of flex in the industry? Do you think we'll see any other celebrities being anointed as ambassadors?
They show up at the White House on a donkey, waving palm fronds.
Yeah.
I mean, probably not, dude. I mean, most of them still hate Trump because they're hardcore, crazy liberals. Like, it's, what is it? There's a passage in the Bible that talks about a rich man being able to inherit the kingdom of God, right, Odin?
Yeah, basically that for a rich man it'll be very difficult because of the many possessions they have distracting
passing
them.
a camel through the eye of a needle.
Right. And when they're referring to the eye of a needle, they're not talking about the eye of an actual like needle used to sew with. It's actually
both,
a doorway.
Actually. Yeah.
So the thing is, though, it's possible for sure, but like I'll just say, biblically speaking, it's not probable because they have whatever they want. They're stuck in their ways. It's hard for a liberal to come around until they've actually suffered. And when you're not suffering, like, so the liberals I know that have come around to conservatism or at least centrists like I have, is because they've suffered under the liberal regime. But celebrities and these Hollywood guys, these Hollywood people, they're not suffering. So there's no reason for them to change their thought process or to change their allegiances or anything, and unless they think it's going to be good for their career because they're a bunch of narcissistic a-holes. But I mean, for real, like there's no reason for them to bend the knee because they aren't suffering. People that do change their mind, it's because they suffer enough to realize that their previous mindset was incorrect.
Well, I'll tell you this much, Brian. Like, I don't know if you know this or not, but I used to work in Hollywood, and
we didn't know that. We know.
Yeah. When I was in there were so many people who aren't liberals that just stay quiet because they don't want to potentially damage, their career or their reputation, or they want to be able to work essentially. But I think that over this past election, like we've seen young people kind of embrace MAGA. We've seen people kind of like move, at least not necessarily right, but at least center, where they're like, hey, this, going so far to the left has been detrimental. It's been bad. And so we might see situations where people who were previously quiet, who shared these beliefs, come out publicly because the winds do seem to be kind of shifting. You have winning the popular vote this time around. And so that signals a big kind of thumbs up for his mandate. Alex, what do you think about that? Do you think Hollywood...
Real quick, Kadish, I don't think I mentioned that I've also worked in Hollywood and know some of these people. And I remember them being very conservative and Republican until about 5 years into their career when they start to really change their mind for some reason. And I can't figure out why.
Oh, that's so strange. It's almost like the government comes up there and gets blackmail on them and tells them they have to be a certain way. Otherwise, their whole life will be crushed.
Interesting. What do you think about that? What do you think about that, Alex?
So crazy. It's like it all lines up.
Adrenochrome when they're going to pedo parties. What's going on?
I bet Neil
want to believe
Gaiman,
everything that Mel Gibson and them say, huh? Sorry.
Yeah, I bet Neil Gaiman has a lot to add to that.
Yeah,
Butter.
It's almost like it all lines up. That's so weird. I don't know, man. I don't really know how else you want to spell it. I mean, you can point as many point as many signs as you want in the direction of the watering hole. Eventually somebody's going to figure it out. Like, hey, look over here. There's a bunch of corrupt freaking psychos who are
eating babies.
Look,
just go listen to a few. Just go listen to a few interviews with Macaulay Culkin and why he left the industry.
Ask Corey Feldman.
Wow, Corey Feldman is almost part of the problem. Let's not bring him up.
But is he wrong?
Well, is he wrong? We'll talk about that.
He's a little bit of an opportunist, though, right?
Why not? I don't know, dude. What was the question? I don't remember.
Because your eternal soul is at jeopardy.
Butter. Do you like butter? That was the question.
Alex, how do you think Trump and his ambassadors are going to influence Hollywood?
The realistic take is probably not very much. I think if anything, they're like Odin mentioned, is they're going to try and bring more work into the States by doing tax cuts and incentives and trying to put American workers. That's probably the most benign, reasonable answer to it. But I don't know if these are the right guys for the job. I guess Sly's 76. I'm like, the dude's going to croak soon, I think. He's just so juiced up on freaking steroids. I'm surprised he's still alive as it is. But it's like, yeah, I guess. Go ahead. Put him in charge. Who cares? His shows are cool.
I'm just waiting for Alex to be like, Ted Cruz killed the president. We never landed on the moon.
LBJ definitely has something to do with Kennedy, though. I'll tell you that much. I could say that. That's out loud.
Chemtrails are turning us all gay.
But am I wrong?
Birds aren't real.
Wow, now that one's a little weird. That's why I draw the line.
Alex believes in dinosaurs. Okay, so. All right, guys. You know what else we believe in? Our members chats. We got Aaron Charman, who gifted 1 Salty Nerd Podcast membership. So we now need to hit 3 more to get our goal before the end of the show. And we have the president of Brian's fan club on here, Fluffy Panda, member for 20 months. Thank you for gifting this month. Look, it's Salty, leader of the Haters Club Goonies. By the way, Goonie is Brian's stage name on the weekend. Hail Pineapple Pizza.
That's great.
Oh, Fluffy, never change.
Like Goonies and pineapple pizza. That's you're batting 1,000 right there, buddy.
Yeah, you know who else supposedly likes pineapple pizza is Elon Musk, and but recently he's gotten into a very public feud with one of the top video game reaction streamers, Asmongold, and this thing is so great. Like, I just had to talk about it with you guys today because it's so. So here's the thing. So Elon Musk has been flexing about his video game prowess. He was like in the top 10 of Diablo 4 players in the world. And when this new game Path of Exile came out, he basically went hardcore mode, which means that if you die, like, your character gets wiped. And he's supposedly I want to say number 1, or at least in the top 5 of Path of Exile in terms of the hardcore mode. But there are these gamers out there who started analyzing his live streams and realizing that he doesn't really know how to play the game, at least according to them. And so they think that he's hired people to basically get his characters up to these insane, record-breaking levels. And then he just comes on and owns them. And Asmongold, who, he's a World of Warcraft streamer, kind of built his audience over there, but now he's very big on YouTube because he just puts out all these reaction content videos. And Asmongold reacted to the video of the guy kind of breaking down Elon's gameplay and basically said, yeah, Elon's not playing this game. He's faking his rankings and stuff like that. And then Elon gets butthurt about being called out for, not actually playing Path of Exile 2. And he starts leaking private DMs he had with Asmongold, and he took away his blue check mark and his video game badge and stuff like that on Twitter. And so people are like, dude, what's your damage? You got called out, just own it. But this feud just keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And it's almost funny because here you have this billionaire rocket scientist guy who's got the ear of the president. Then you have this dude who lives in his attic who just reacts to videos, and they're having the biggest feud on the planet.
Yeah. What's funny is the Path of Exile thing is sort of stupid too, because that can all be all of his inconsistencies with the game can be explained if he uses 2 keyboards, which a lot of Path of Exile players use.
Well, Brian, why don't we start with you? Why don't we dive into this? What's your perspective on this?
Yeah, I don't know if he's paying people to levels accounts. I'm sure he could be. But if you look at the gameplay, I play Path of Exile. And if you're using one of the one-handed keyboards like the G13 or the Lay-In Pro, it allows you to literally control 15 to 25 buttons. You don't have to use your keyboard. You don't have to mouse over certain things. So you can explain his gameplay by him just being filthy rich and having better gear, honestly. And I'm not sure that's the case. I'm just saying that he could just be using a G13. And if he's using a G13, then he wouldn't have to play the standard way that people would play when they're using, AWSD or whatever. Aside from that, though, the whole thing with Asmon is really funny because you're right. You have this guy, this filthy cockroach dude that just makes videos in his attic somewhere, and he's fighting with the richest guy on the planet. It's so insane. And they're chatting like they're buds, and then they start arguing with each other. And honestly, Asmon didn't argue with anyone. It was 99% Elon Musk just fueling this thing because he's so pissed that someone dare threaten his elite gamer profile
status.
Yeah. I just think it is really quite funny. I still love Elon Musk. I'm getting a kick out of it. And I saw Asmon's reaction to it, and it's funny because Asmon doesn't really give a shit. He's like, yeah, I think it's sort of funny. I'm sure we're gonna be cool later on. He'll calm down.
No, and I don't care.
He literally was like, I'm sure that when he relaxes, we'll be buds again. Like, it's such a weird thing, dude. 2025 bingo is really getting out there.
Well, Alex, you're along with Dutch Butters, you're running our gaming channel, and Asmongold is, a very famous video game streamer and reaction content guy. And Elon Musk kind of flexing about like how he uses video games almost like as a Zen-like way to unwind. But he's like very, very big on like breaking records and being like the best at it. What's your take on this feud?
It's just two autistic nerds going at it, man.
That's what it is. It's a couple autistic dudes fighting. Yeah.
It's just the two autistic dudes fighting over who's better. I don't know. Look. I'm not trying to pick a fight, and I know I'm in the YouTube sphere, so I'm supposed to play nice. But I don't.
I
really
like them both, by the way.
I don't have a very high opinion about Asmongold. I don't like his content. That's nothing against the guy personally. I don't know him obviously, but just watching him react to other people's better content just drives me insane a little bit. He's just a grimy little weird dude. Who's like, have you seen pictures of his freaking room that he's in? It's gross. It grosses me out. I don't like that guy.
He did that thing where he hired someone to clean his house. Remember that?
No, because I don't watch any of his stuff. I'm glad he did that though. At least it's a step in the right direction. The first part of solving a problem.
He took an after photo, and it still looked like the floor of a glory hole booth.
Well, I don't even know what an Asmongold is. It sounds like something that's on the periodic table to me. But
it's a Twitch streamer.
At the end of the day,
YouTuber.
I thought the bigger deal wasn't it that Elon got into his private DMs and was like putting them out online or some shit?
No,
like
it was a private DM exchange between him and Elon that he started.
Okay. Okay.
Shots of,
because I know everybody was making a big deal out of it. Because otherwise, I could give a shit about this whole thing. But that was the thing that stuck out to me as kind of weird. But yeah.
Well, I think we are seeing like the soft underbelly of the dragon when it comes to Elon Musk. Like he has an ego, right? He's the most richest person. He's got an ego, and somebody poked at a soft spot, and he freaked out. He spurred out about it.
Well, Tom, the funny thing about those DMs is that as people are pointing out, Elon completely misunderstood what Asmongold was telling him, because basically, Elon interpreted what Asmongold told him as saying that like Asmongold answers to a boss. And what Asmongold was saying is that he has two editors that he does rev share with on the YouTube channel.
Video editors, dude.
Video editors that he has to like run an idea by because they're partners in the channel.
They're partners, right?
And then like Elon's like, oh, Asmongold has people he answers to.
He's talking about like editors from like old newspaper times.
Yeah,
that's what he's referring to. Like editors at like a newspaper.
Well, I answer to an editor, Andre, but I actually edit the videos. Like, I mean, I guess there's a difference.
But the point was that Elon was saying that Asmongold basically has people that he answers to.
Okay,
I get it. But Asmongold's actually the boss.
But I thought it was like he got into like other private DMs that had nothing to do with him that he had put out.
No, he just screen shared. That's what I did. Took a screenshot.
Yeah. So, Tom, what do you think about Elon fully misunderstanding how YouTube works?
No, and I don't care.
Okay, then moving on.
No, I really don't give a shit, honestly. I mean, like I said, unless he's doing something nefarious, like, because that was what I thought was he got into this guy's or at least shared them publicly, because he obviously could get into all of our DMs if he wants to. But like, yeah, I thought that's what was going on. But if that's not what's going on, then I don't give a shit. It's two nerds fighting.
All right. Well, Reaper, I know that over in the UK, the government has it out for Elon Musk. Are they keeping track of how Asmongold's handling the situation?
I think they're too busy denying giant pedophile scandals at the moment.
Very true. What's your take on this feud?
Well, Elon Musk does often spag out, like over the H-1B visas. He took loads of people's blue check marks away. But how does a guy who's sending rockets to space have enough time to make a fucking exile account, become a master on it, and then argue with some homeless guy on the internet?
Homeless guy.
Who has the fucking time for that?
All while arguing with Asmongold?
He called Asmongold homeless.
I mean, he looks homeless.
Oh my god!
I like this guy. I like this guy.
Oh,
bring him back next week, Kadish. I like this guy. Hey, man, let's talk about the CIA a little bit more, too.
And I'm telling you, birds aren't real, you guys. I'm telling you. They're CIA drones. They're here to spy on us.
Some of them probably are.
Well, Reaper, do you have
Ted Cruz is the Zodiac killer.
do you have any comments on how Elon is basically interfering in UK politics?
No. It's so boring. Well, he's not really. He's just going, Keir Starmer's a pedo. And Keir Starmer's like, no. And that's it. That's basically as far as it goes.
Why is everything over there so much gayer than America? It's like, we got gangs here too, but not groomer ones.
Yeah, but they're Muslims. They're not us. So, what do you want us to do? Ideally, we get rid. Well, I can't physically. There's fucking millions of them. They just seem to.
Well, I don't mean you specifically, but I mean,
not where I live. I'm in quite a white area, so I'm okay-ish. But not far from me, there's quite a lot of pedo gangs. They're fucking everywhere. The weird thing is, though, is that they just went, should we investigate 250,000 girls being groped? And the government just went, nah, we're fine.
I'm sure
we don't need to check into that. It's not like we've covered it up.
Crazy.
Well, it was nice being monetized for a little while anyway. Odin, what's your take on Elon versus Asmongold?
Honestly, for me, I care so very little about the topic. It just is not. It just doesn't seem that important to me. I've heard the sides of it though, and so does it really matter though to me whether or not he's actually as good of a gamer as he claims to be? It doesn't really matter. Would it surprise me to hear that he didn't actually do any of the grinding to get to that level? It wouldn't surprise me. It also wouldn't surprise me if he did. I mean, again, that's why for me, I don't really have a side in this fight. The one thing I've heard some people mention though is the fact that he showed DMs, and I know that can be a bit of a faux pas in many respects. But for me, also, it's like if the DMs aren't really revealing anything like personal, I don't have as much of a problem with it. Again, I do think it's a bad precedent because I do think that it sets the stage of, okay, what are you willing to share? Like, what is your line? If you're willing to show private messages between you and another person, like that, what line would you have? But with what was actually shown, I don't really think it was that big of a deal as far as what was actually shown. So
I do think it should raise a concern about X as a platform where it's like, okay, so if you do something that the freaking the Lord Almighty Elon Musk doesn't like, he's gonna like mess with you on his platform because he can.
Was it trustworthy before when there was a CIA guy in the building? Is it more trustworthy or less?
They were activating the birds on his building. I told you.
You keep assuming that they've left. I don't know if they have or not.
Well, they have an office.
Under new management.
Yeah, because also too, the only thing I've really heard is like the only ramifications have been some people have been demonetized. But I think the point can be made of, well, it is his platform, so he can pay whoever he wants to pay. But
right, but that was the same argument that they made when Twitter was owned by Jack Dorsey too. It's like, well, you can't say conservative things because it's his platform. He doesn't want you to.
One of the differences, though, is that you could actually get deplatformed and kicked off, and that's a very different thing than just being demonetized on a platform. I think.
Yeah, it is.
Especially on one like Twitter, which is really not known for monetization, right? Because even those that are in the partner program with like the ad sales and stuff, I don't think are like writing home of, oh man, I'm getting so much money from these ads. Let me tell you. I mean,
this is my career now.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of that. I mean, if it was a situation like that where someone like this would probably not be until years down the road, like someone had been established on X as like that was their place, that's where all their followers were. Maybe there are people like that might exist right now, and then they were demonetized. Then I that's where I think a huge problem could be brought up. But in general, as of right now, it just, again, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal for me, at least as far as other things going on in the world.
Also, just if you've got dirty DMs, don't get into an argument with Elon Musk. He's going to leak them all.
Yeah.
He's a freaking screen share.
But also, like, don't put any personal information in a DM on Twitter in the first place. Yeah. It's just...
Yeah. Although Odin has given me a social security card.
Yes, this is true.
I don't know why you keep doing that, dude. I told you I don't need it. It's not important, but
because I love you.
Okay, that's fair.
The secret affair between Brian and Odin has been revealed. Yeah, but you know what's crazy about this whole feud is that Asmongold was just reacting to a very in-depth and accusatory video made by a different guy who was basically calling out Elon Musk, and all Asmongold did was agree with him at the end of the day. He's like, yeah, Elon Musk is definitely faking his ranking and stuff like that. So it's kind of weird that Elon's not going after all the guys who were calling him out. It was just Asmongold.
Probably because he felt like he had a relationship with Asmongold.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It was like he felt betrayed by his friend, basically. I think is what probably came down.
He was friends with a homeless dude.
Well, Asmon has specifically said that they're not friends. That like they just exchanged DMs occasionally, but like they weren't like in regular contact with each other. So
yeah, but for autistic guys like Elon, that's probably one of his friends.
Maybe it's true. You know who else are good friends? Are super chatters. We have DaBeast808, who has just become a member of the channel. Thank you, DaBeast808. And he also gifted 5 Salty Nerd Podcast memberships. Hit our goal for the live stream. Thank you so much, DaBeast808. Really appreciate you. And Scotty Dub for $50. Aloha, the Salty Saturday crew. Good to see a Northern Englishman joining you today. If I may recommend, Emilia Perez is the best awful film most likely to win Best Picture soon. Happy birthday to Dutch. I'll be in Vegas soon for fun. Oh, it's not we should hang out when you're in town. Be sure to hit us up to let us know.
No desire to see that garbage.
What's that about it?
Oh, it's about the trans person. It's basically a guy who runs a drug cartel and he's trying to get away from the cartel, so he becomes a woman.
Okay.
But it's not in like the comedy days of old where it's like, oh, you could have a movie like Tootsie where it's like playing it for laughs, or the Joanna Man, right? No. It's like it's because he's a woman now.
He's trying to evade detection, sort of like Caitlyn Jenner. Caitlyn Jenner hit someone with his car and became a woman.
Buckle up, buckaroos.
Buckle up, buckaroos.
Didn't that film piss off everyone in South America? Somehow pissed off the entire continent.
Probably did. Apparently, there's a lot of issues with it beyond just that. It's just not a good film. Like, because even the film threat guys who tend to like more obscure movies, like regardless of the content, even they were like, yeah, this is not good.
But isn't the film set in Mexico? It's set in Mexico, and yet there's not many Mexican actors in the movie. And when asked why there isn't any Mexicans, they went, "Oh, they're not good enough."
Whoa!
Wow! All right, guys. You know what else has a lot of issues with it was Daredevil: Born Again, and I don't know if you guys were aware, but they released a new trailer. So, like, the story behind Daredevil: Born Again is basically they were shooting it. And Marvel didn't like what they were seeing. And so during the actors' strike, they basically erased everything that had been shot and decided to reboot it, right? So like the new trailer for this just came out. It does not have Daredevil in his mustard outfit. None of the kind of like what was that Echo stuff is mentioned in this thing. But essentially we have this new trailer, which is very, very how should I say? It should be a red band trailer because there's a lot of gore in this thing.
Oh, yeah, like
it's a good trailer.
Compound fracture stuff.
Yeah, like you see bones breaking out of skin.
Yeah.
And honestly, like I when I first started watching this trailer, I was like, I'm not really interested in Marvel anymore because like they fuck stuff up. But at the end of the trailer, I was like, damn, it's good. And Nerdrotic, Odin's best friend. Actually, a lot of people accuse him of just like hating on everything, but he came out and he's like, wow, this was actually a good trailer as opposed to Echo.
Yeah, it's good.
So I want to go around and get everyone's reaction to this trailer. We'll start with you, Odin. How are you and your Friday Night Tights buddies liking the new Daredevil Born Again trailer?
Overall, last night we were very, cautiously optimistic about it. It definitely seems to have a throwback feel to the original Netflix series, especially to season 1 of the Netflix series, which in my opinion is some of the best superhero television that we've really ever gotten. It was so dark. It was so down to earth. It was also so well shot. I mean, we still to this day talk about the hallway sequence where it's a fight sequence that occurs where it's just one shot and the camera's either slowly fading in or fading out. And basically they're going in and out of rooms. And so all you see are them getting hit into the hallway or hit out of the hallway. And it's just very well done, very well shot, very well choreographed as well. So that's what this kind of feels like. However, we always have to say, giant grain of salt, have to be very, cautious with anything that comes from modern day Disney, modern day MCU, anything related to them in whatever capacity. So right now it looks like it might be pretty good, but I will hold my judgment until the show actually comes out and until the entirety of the show has been released, because we also know they can sometimes make it so that the beginning's okay and then it just falls off the rails. So we'll wait and see.
Well, Reaper, what's your take on this? Do you think Marvel Television might have turned a corner with this rejiggering of Daredevil?
Even someone like me, who's 99% hateful about everything, felt a slight flicker of optimism when watching it. But I don't know if that's actually the case, if it's just a one-off or it's just going to be this going forwards, because you got to think we had Echo, She-Hulk, fucking the Marvel, just the worst shows possible. So I don't even know. I think it's because they're so desperate for money. They might pull this one right out of their asses, but I have no idea going forward. It looks good, but we'll see.
Well, Brian, this is the first kind of post-Hollywood strike Marvel project that's coming out. We have Captain America, Brave New World. Reaper mentioned She-Hulk and Echo, and basically all these projects that were done like before Trump won, essentially. And I think that there's this shift going on in Marvel right now where they're realizing that they screwed up and they're trying to course correct. And this might be the first inclination of that. What's your take on it?
You're referring to BT before Trump.
Yeah, before.
Now that we're in the AT part of the lore, I don't know. The trailer looks really good. I've been fooled by trailers before. I mean, it looks good. I wasn't like a massive fan of the original Daredevil. I thought it was the best of the Netflix shows for sure. I like the character a lot. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not holding my breath. Like, I gotta be honest with you, I was sort of looking forward to She-Hulk, and then I watched the first episode and I was like, no, I'm good. So
from the trailer, you thought that was good?
Dude, I look forward to a lot of shit. Okay, here's the deal. I watch everything. So I had this weird optimistic thing where I'm like, maybe it'll be good because I'm gonna watch it no matter what.
No, it should be the opposite. I watch everything and I just get more pessimistic each time.
No, but I can't, bro. I can't. It's my job. I have to watch everything. So I gotta hope beyond hope that it might be something that entertains me or inspires me in some way.
But don't you crash out more? You go, this is going to be good. No, it isn't. This is going to be good. No, it isn't. You just have the high and low every week.
Well, I think I also have lower standards than you, Reaper. I'll be real. Like, I liked The Flash. I thought it was a fun movie. I didn't think it was a masterpiece, but I had a good time.
It wasn't a masterpiece.
No,
it was not a masterpiece.
Of course not. It wasn't a masterpiece, but I had a good time. I saw the problems with it, and I was able to be like,
was you drunk?
No, man.
This is insight into who Brian is.
I have a lower bar than you. Look, I can criticize something.
Your bar is subterranean.
No, I can criticize something to the end, but my plan is to get some kind of entertainment value out of something. What pisses me off more than Flash, with all of its flaws, is really being into going to watch a Batman movie that everyone, including people on this panel, told me was amazing. And then when I get there, I can barely see shit and I'm bored for 3 hours. That pisses me off a lot more than a bunch of explosions and bad CGI.
That's expectations, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, Brian, what do you think about Muse being the main kind of like antagonist in terms of like, Daredevil in this season?
I'm forgetting the name of the guy who plays Kingpin. Something D'Onofrio.
Vincent D'Onofrio.
Yeah. So first off, I love that actor. I've loved him since he's in like SVU, I think, right?
He's a major Trump derangement syndrome guy too, though.
No, I know he has mental problems. But as far as his acting is concerned, he's a great actor. Like I can put his crazy worldview aside and enjoy his craft. So I think he's very good at acting. As far as the villain goes, I'm not sold that the villain isn't Kingpin, because the villain is always Kingpin.
Well, I mean, like there's, Kingpin's the major villain, but the guy that Daredevil is going to be going head to head against, as opposed to like, what's his name, Bullseye, is Muse this coming season. So
sure, okay, whatever.
Well, are you familiar with the character?
I've seen him in comic books. I don't know what his power set is.
So he's basically a serial killer who basically uses murder as like his artistic expression. And he's got some type of like ability where Daredevil can't detect him with his enhanced senses. So
that's interesting, I guess. I don't know why you have to give a handicap to a superhero that's literally handicapped, but whatever, I guess.
The way it was described, yeah, I mean, I looked it up, and part of me wondered immediately, like, wait a minute, if his power is that he can basically deprive, like, almost like be like a black hole of sensory information, wouldn't that make him more obvious to someone whose only power is sensory information? Because he's the absent void.
Don't think about it, Odin.
I'm just saying. Doesn't make any sense.
It's not a void.
Don't think about it.
It's not a void. It's that he's undetectable. So like you know when Daredevil's using his sonar vision, essentially, it's like he's like one of those guys that you know the stealth bomber. It's just like he doesn't get picked up on. Right?
He has like a special suit or
Remember
something?
that time Penguin played the bullseye?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. That was crazy.
That movie
So
was
you're
rough.
saying he has a cloak of invisibility? Is that what I'm hearing?
He must have some kind of sound dampening cloak.
Dude, if Ben Affleck had showed up as Daredevil in Wolverine and Deadpool, that would have been,
That would have been
lost my
That would
shit.
have been epic. That would've been epic.
epic.
I don't give a fuck what anybody says. The director's cut of that movie rocks. Just take out that stupid scene in the stupid playground, and the movie be fine.
I gotta watch that movie. I didn't know there was a director's cut. That's pretty awesome. I'll check it
Yeah,
out.
it's better than the other version. Yeah.
That's not saying much.
Couldn't be
though.
worse.
I think Michael.
Hey, shut up!
Clark
It's
Duncan-
good.
Hey, at least
Michael
it's an
Clark
actual
Duncan was
director's cut.
miscast. Yeah. But Alex, you know, the cool thing about Daredevil Born Again is that it actually looks like a sequel to the Netflix.
Did he just say Michael Clark Duncan was miscast as Kingpin?
I thought so, yeah.
That's
Looks nothing like him.
No, sir.
No. That was good casting.
No.
No, he's not the Kingpin.
That was
I
good
agree
casting.
with
That was
Reaper.
really good casting.
Acting,
What?
he fit the part perfect.
Well, he's not. Yeah, I'm not saying he's a great actor.
He
But
sounds
good
slow mentally. I mean, forget the size. Forget he doesn't look like him. He literally he talks like he's had a stroke.
That man is dead. He can't defend himself.
Yeah, bro.
How
Exactly.
dare you?
I've
This
wasted
is
my
extreme poor
opportunity.
taste.
He's coffee. You be quiet.
Too soon.
Look, I like Michael Clark Duncan.
He's
but
second Jesus.
I don't think he was a good casting as Kingpin.
I thought he was just fine, sir. You just
Yeah, I disagree. I think it was good casting.
bite your tongue.
Anyway,
I didn't
Alex,
like the movie, but
I
good
think
casting.
he's just
Yeah.
racist.
What's up, dude?
Yeah,
you caught me, Odin. Old white guy. Old white guy.
Super racist.
just more reason
Your
to
white
agree with him.
privilege is showing.
Yes.
What
Alex-
a racist.
So,
Yeah.
so this looks more like a sequel to the Netflix shows than what we were originally going to get initially, and they're bringing back all the same actors from the show, like Foggy and what's her name, Karen, are coming back. Vincent D'Onofrio.
Well, and they paid for the rights from the Netflix version, so you might as well use it, right? Like, it makes no
Exactly.
sense. Because they actually
Yeah.
shot a bunch of the show as a sequel to the She-Hulk version, and it wasn't working. So they made him go back to square one and start over again. So
But
and it really does
also-
appear that this is a different alternate universe or something or other. But yeah,
How
Well,
much
also,
of the
they-
She-Hulk show is in this?
What's that?
How much of the former She-Hulk spin-off was in this?
None of it.
Completely gone.
acknowledge it at all. Yeah.
Yeah. No, they're treating it as a direct sequel to the third season of Netflix's Daredevil. It's going to happen a few years later. They're probably not going to talk about.
The Defenders.
Yeah, they're probably not going to talk about the
Well,
direct stuff that happened in there, but like basically all the stuff that happened in the previous seasons will happen here. We have the guy who played Bullseye coming back, but also Salty. We have the Punisher returning.
Yeah, John Bernthal.
Yeah. So what's your
Isn't there
take
a guy
on
in the
this?
Defenders that can punch people really hard or something like that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Iron
the
Fist.
Iron Fist.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
shitty power, dude.
I don't know, man. Talk to Mike Tyson about it. See if he thinks it's a shitty power.
Power though.
Yeah, it looks good. Look, the trailer looks great. I'm cautiously optimistic, but actually, who was it? Somebody, maybe it was Brian, mentioned something about Vincent D'Onofrio being freaking TDS hardcore. Once he said that, I kind of put a couple pieces together. In this trailer, they say that Kingpin is basically running for like mayor of New York or whatever, and so it's going to have some kind of a political angle to it. And if they are not careful, they could real easily paint like, oh look, it's a allegory for Trump. He's running for office, and he's going to be like, oh, I got to put New York first, and this.
All of a sudden, Kingpin's wearing a toupee.
Yeah.
Kingpin running for mayor of New York was actually a major storyline in the comic book.
I know. I'm not saying it doesn't like fit the character or whatever, or if it's not comic book accurate. I'm saying if they're not careful, or if they did it on purpose and they made it, they force it to be an allegory for Trump by using a lot of the same political buzzwords, it could be a real quick turn.
Listen, Matt Murdock, I don't want you messing in my affairs any longer.
Well, make New York great again. I mean, all they have to do is slip one of those stupid freaking phrases in this movie, and it's gonna freaking completely take everybody out of the show. So, I mean, just I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see if they fall for that trick or not.
Yeah, what's really kind of interesting is that they seem to be going back and using the comic books as more source material for the stories. But I like how they opened up the trailer with basically the Heat scene where it's like De Niro and Pacino sitting down in a coffee shop talking to each other, and now we have like Daredevil and Matt Murdock. And if you guys watch season 3 of the Netflix show, you know that basically Kingpin knows that Matt Murdock's Daredevil, and it seems like he's been out of the vigilante business for a while. But stuff's going to happen, and I'm wondering like how this is going to impact future show, like if they're going to use this as like a foray into, you know, kind of creating like more of a TV universe, kind of like how Netflix had. What's your take on that, Tom? Tom, put the cereal spoon down and answer my question.
Put the cereal down.
Put the cereal down, Tom.
Okay, well, Tom's
there, bro.
Yeah, Tom's basically out. Yeah. He's like, fuck this shit. I'm out of here. I don't even know why I show up on Saturdays. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I for one am looking forward to Daredevil Born Again. Looks like a pretty badass.
I was sitting here for like 45 minutes. You didn't ask me shit. I step away for 5. Then you do.
So just put BRB in the chat, Tom.
I should, but you know what? Any other time I can walk away. Don't say a word. I could just do my thing, and you don't say a word.
Well, Tom, do you have an answer to my question?
Which was like, how's this going to affect the MCU going forward, or what was it?
How's it going to affect the TV shows that Disney's putting out for the MCU?
Well, if it's more successful, I think that they'll notice that, and they'll probably kind of reassess how they're handling the TV thing. At least I would hope so, because, I mean, it makes more sense for these shows to be in a world where they don't affect the movies, but they can be affected by the movies, right? Because that's the biggest problem going into this next year of films is if you haven't seen that Captain Falcon show, then you have no idea what the hell's happening in Captain America 4, nor would you care, right? And the same thing with like, you know, some of their other things like Doctor Strange. Like that was the problem with that. It was a sequel to WandaVision instead of Doctor Strange or Spider-Man No Way Home. They need to be able to find a way to make these shows work the way they did when they were on Netflix originally, where they didn't rely on the MCU and vice versa. Right, where they were in their own little universe and they could do their own little things. Sure, they could acknowledge little winks, nudge here and there. Yeah.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did it perfectly. They acknowledged it every once in a while, but it wasn't important to the story.
Do I think it's going to change, though? I doubt it, even though this is an oddball because it's actually getting 18 episodes, which is strange. Wow. I mean, it's almost like a full season run, but like, yeah.
Yeah, that's actually pretty rare.
It could be a new model because basically didn't Marvel announce that they're only doing like 1 or 2 series per year now instead of like
could be a
bunch of stuff, so like they want to drag it out.
And it would make sense to get like a bunch of characters like this that are a bit more street level and do those as TV shows, because at the end of the day most comic books work better as like serial TV shows anyway. Let's be real. I mean, and they can't keep spending the kind of money they are on these movies, but I mean comic book stories can do great on television for the next few decades, no problem, as long as you're not spending too much money on them. And Daredevil's 100%. A great example of one that you don't have to spend a bunch of money on.
And speaking of spending money, we got a super chat from Hemorrhoid Hertz for an Australian $2. No one is more aptly named than Reaper, except me. Yes, indeed. Seems you got a fan there, Reaper.
I don't know why. I have 86,000, but people keep subscribing to me, and all I do is swear, go on weird rambles. Speak incoherently.
Well, we appreciate you being on our show today, Reaper, and we had a lot to talk about today, and we talked about it. want to thank the chat for being their normal awesome selves, and want to thank you all for helping us hit our goal of 15 new Salty Nerd members. Odin of OMB Reviews, any final thoughts on what we talked about today, and where can people find more of you?
Yeah, you can find me at OMB Reviews on YouTube and Rumble as well. And as far as final thoughts are concerned, yeah, Daredevil is definitely the positive that we have to look forward to. Here's hoping. You can never tell these days. I'm looking forward to Mythic Quest, which is not too far away.
Hell yes!
Season.
Hell yes!
Coming up. So
Severance season 2.
Yeah.
Sure.
So there's some good things. There's some good things. And then my Raven Awards. We finally have finalized our ballot for the 2025 Raven Awards, and so we'll announce our nominees officially this coming Monday. So 7:45 p.m. Eastern Time Monday on OMB Reviews. Stay tuned for more.
All right. Well, I think Tom Connors is AFK, so we'll get back to him in a little bit. Reaper, I want to thank you so much for making your second appearance here on our show. It's always a pleasure having you here, and we don't need to be monetized anyway. So, like, anytime you want to demonetize us, you're free to come back on. Do you have any final thoughts on what we talked about today, and where can people find more of you?
I couldn't give a fuck about Neil Gaiman. I couldn't give a fuck about Elon Musk talking to a homeless guy. I couldn't give a fuck about the Hollywood thing.
The homeless guy thing killed me, dude. I had to mute my mic. I was laughing for like 5 minutes after that.
I mean, these are first world problems.
Glad I'm not the only one. I'm like, what is?
I'm now only going to refer to Asmon as the homeless guy.
I mean, he's got cockroaches in his room. I mean,
yeah, he does.
He lives in a bin.
He does. Yeah, he does.
Dirty bastard. Anyway, so apart from that, it was all right. Yeah, this live stream's pretty good. I've got a Castlevania Nocturne review coming out soon, and it's horrendous. And that's it. That's me done.
Yeah, for those of you interested in following Reaper, the link to his YouTube channel is in the description. And he has a fantastic YouTube channel. I got to give you your flowers, Reaper, because as much as I hate stuff, you verbalize it so eloquently. So good stuff on you there.
Swear. That's my trick.
Indeed.
You won't get paid. That's the downside. You're always demonetized, but you got to say what you want.
You got to be passionate about your critiques. But we appreciate you coming on today, Reaper, even though I guess the topics I chose were not to anyone's liking.
It was a good job. I mean, no one can make this exciting. No one can make Neil Gaiman and his horrible BDSM fetish exciting. I mean, that's just the news we got.
You know, Dutch Butters could have made it exciting, but he's not here anymore. Brian from the Popcast, guys, I don't know if you know this, but Brian has a show that's coming up right after this one at 12:30 Pacific time. It's called The Brain Show.
Hard to top this show with Neil.
Yeah, but as Reaper pointed out, brain is misspelled, so they're not that smart. But Brian, any final thoughts on what we had to talk about today, and where can people find more of you?
Final thoughts. Birds aren't real. I'm going to die on that hill. And Ted Cruz is the Zodiac Killer. It's already been proven. It's facts. So look it up. Let's look it up.
Trudeau is Castro's son.
Yeah, Trudeau is 100% Castro's son. It's very obvious.
Keep going, buddy. You got this.
we didn't land on the moon. Hillary Clinton is literally a reptile person. She is actually a reptile.
Do you remember that loogie she spit out in her glass that one year?
She's from the middle of the earth, and her people run the majority of the country, and they eat babies and drink their blood. Look it up, guys. No, you can find me at the podcast, but I'm not sure I want to fucking spam the podcast right now after that. That's my main channel. I'm not trying to get that demonetized. I just dropped our last part of the Alien franchise videos. Literally Alien 3, Resurrection, AVP, AVR, Prometheus, Covenant, Romulus, all in one hour-and-a-half long history documentary. Just to wrap up the Alien. I'm going to tell you right now, I am never going to talk about the Alien again after the last 3 months of making Alien content. That's the last video. I would love it if you guys went and checked it out. I recognize that's probably going to get less views than the other two, and that's okay. I had to finish the series. So go check that out. And the Brain Show is coming up in about half an hour.
Yep. And guys, we will be automatically redirecting you to the Brain Show channel after this live stream ends. So stay tuned for that. Tom Connors Jr., Master of Midnight's Edge. Any final thoughts on what we talked about today, and where do people find more of you?
Don't use Crisco, use butter.
Oh my gosh.
You can find me at Midnight's Edge After Dark, and all fine retailers that sell pornography.
And grinder.com/Tom Connors.
And Grinder Deck.
Buy porn.
For those of you who are wondering about Tom's butter fetish, just read the article about Neil Gaiman linked in the description. It explains it perfectly. But now that RFK Jr. is going to be in charge, it's now beef tallow instead of butter. So we got to go.
Yeah. Butter's good for you, though.
Yeah. Alex, the salty nerd, what's going on the video game channel this week?
So we've got some more information going on about Helldivers 2. We have the DICE Awards coming up fairly soon. We might do a live stream on that where we react to what terrible video games get awarded by people in self-congratulatory ceremonies where they just jerk each other off in a circle. And then what else are we doing? We're doing KCD 2. There was some drama about that this week, but it turned out to just be a psyop from an Arabian country trying to take down Christianity again. Odin, I'd love to talk to you about that. That'd be fun. Lots of fun things. I agree with everything Brian
During
said
the Frogs game.
that actually happened.
That did happen. Look it up. Look it up. I'm not lying. Look it up. Look it up.
There's a reason why they put fluoride in your water. Look it up. It's real.
Yeah, look it up. Look it up.
Look it up.
Why do you think I'm bisexual? I brush my teeth a lot.
Research.
What do you think, dude? I mean, I have good teeth, so I'm bi. That's it.
What else can I say to make sure? Like, I found out the hard way why Dutch Butters faked his own death to get out of this show. Those topics were brutal today. My God, what a day!
Welcome to Saturday. Welcome to Saturday, Alex.
What a day! What a way to start your Saturday morning. Other than that, no, just go check out Salty Nerd Gaming. If you are a gamer and you want to hang out, go to saltynerd.discord.com. We do have over 1,000 members there that are we're playing multiple different video games. We do live streams in there as well. So thanks for the support as always, guys. And that's it for me. Signing out.
And speaking of support, we got Fluffy Panda for $5. Damn, whoever recommended Letter to the King, completely girl-powered ending. 80% of the series was good. Ending ruined it. Curse you, pineapple on pizza.
Odin.
All right, guys.
Always Odin, dude. He's the one who told me to watch the Batman.
What?
Yeah, it was you.
I was going to
definitely
say,
not true.
I must not have been here that day because I would have warned you, brother.
Dude, I've always been of the mindset where the film that like the first third is I think pretty good. The second third is okay.
And by first third,
do
you mean the first hour or like the first 20 minutes or the first 3 hours or the first...
The whole first intermission of 3.
Because in that first hour is where you have the scene where he knocks on the door and he's like, I'm here to see the Penguin. It's like Batman does not knock on the fucking door unless he's Adam West. Okay? Period.
The part that kills me every time, it kills my soul. Hey guys, how's it going? And he's a YouTuber.
Oh, he was a YouTuber. That's right.
Hey guys.
Oh my God.
Yeah. You know who isn't a YouTuber is Mexican Iron Man, WG, Hitchhiker 42, Scotty Dub, and Hemorrhoids Hurts. Guys, thank you so much for your support during this episode. We really appreciate the super chats and Fluffy Panda. Can't forget Brian's biggest fan. And so I hope you guys enjoyed us. Stay tuned for the Brain Show and tune in next Saturday, same salty time, same salty channel for more Salty Saturdays. And Alex, I'm going to need you to end the stream for us. And say goodbye to all these lovely people.
Stay salty, folks. We'll see you next week.
Wow.
Is there an outro? Do we do an outro music? I forgot.
Where's the outro?
Where is it?
I only did that because I thought we were ending the stream. Now it looks stupid.
Play the outro.